With the release of Bai Qi and Tokugawa Ieyasu into the game, we have seen a massive shift in the best investment meta for archers, infantry, and cavalry. And today, I'm going to be updating my best investment guide, going over the best commanders to invest in so that you can use your gold heads wisely. So if you're thinking of investing in any commanders soon, or you just want to know the best commanders right now, you want to stick around till the end of the video. Now let's start off by quickly doing what I always do with these guides. How did I decide the commanders today? And for the majority of them, their ranks will remain pretty similar to last time, and I'll just adjust based on their age or how I've seen some of them perform in the open field. But for the newer, more commanders that are more meta, more contentious, I've looked at open field reports and I've considered their skill kit to try and make an estimate of which commanders will be the best to invest in. Keep in mind, this video is somewhat speculation. I could say a commander is a poor investment and they end up getting a commander that really suits them. I could say a commander is a really good investment and they end up getting no good commanders and end up getting smashed. We've seen that, for example, with Gorgo, who, while she wasn't a very good investment at the time of her release, I did put her close to the meta investments, and she kind of got outshadowed by the upcoming commander releases for infantry. And we've also seen it with other commanders like Sargon, who was actually quite a good commander when he released, and we got pretty good investment out of him, but then he got no good commanders and now he sucks. So there's always the chance that a curveball just gets thrown our way and the investment tier list can be wrong, but generally it's going to be quite accurate. There's only been a few situations where it is a little bit off, but we're going to be expecting that if we look at the commanders' kits, skills, their debuffs, their future potential, all that stuff, we can kind of expect where that commander will be on the open field. With that out of the way though, let's switch over to the tier list. So here is the full tier list. The top tier here is the best invest. These are the best commanders in the game right now. You should invest in them pretty much no matter what, and they're going to be a really good pickup. Great choice. These commanders are very good on the field. They're very solid to invest in, usually after you've got at least most of the best invest commanders. Niche, these commanders serve some role. They're either a really good garrison, they're either somewhat good with some of the best invest commanders, or they're just there for certain weird situations. Mid, these commanders are not amazing, and you can invest in them if you really want to, maybe 5 or 6 marches of one troop type, but they're not going to be the best option. Bad, these commanders have some purpose, but you never really want to use them, and no are absolute rubbish. Starting off though, we've already started with a bang. Arthur Pendragon, straight in the best invest. He's one of the best commanders in the game. He's got really good combo and also direct damage depending on how you want to use him. Definitely a meta commander right now. We've also got Liu Che, 100% a best invest commander, one of the best infantry commanders in the game at the moment, 5 target AoE smite damage beast. There's almost no reason to not invest in him. Alex would have been in the great choice before the release of Bai Qi. Now I'm going to put him in niche. He's good when you move towards 3 or so infantry marches because you will still run a Liu Che with an Alex. But Alex on his own nowadays, for most people who will just run like 2 infantry marches, he isn't the best pickup. So I think niche going on towards the mid tier for Alex is the best option, but he's still fairly solid on the open field. However, we are considering their future potential today, which is why I think niche is a good spot for Alex. Attila, I'm going to also put him in niche. He seems to be okay for cavalry rallying right now. I mean, pretty meta for cavalry rallying with the new rally Subutai, but he isn't the most overpowered on the field. While he is still usable and he is still quite an okay choice, there are much better commanders out there. So niche seems to be quite befitting for Attila. Bai Qi, we're definitely going to put him in the best investment. His damage is really good, his kit is amazing, his expertise is very solid, and because he's got a 5 target AoE, there's almost no chance that he falls out the meta within the next few releases. So generally, I would say that Bai Qi has a really good chance of being quite a meta commander for quite a while, similar to the runtime of Liu Che. So Bai Qi, in my opinion, definitely a best invest commander. Belisarius, he's going to go into the mid tier. I would have put him in niche a while ago, but I think now cavalry have a lot of better options compared to Belisarius Prime. He just isn't the most amazing commander, and I would expect to see some much stronger commanders in the future who are going to just outshadow him. CJ, very much a bad commander nowadays. I'd almost never really consider investing in him. Same thing for Martel, definitely not a meta commander anymore. William, however, I think is solid in the great choice now. He's really, really good with Bai Qi. Not as good as Liu Chair, but if you need to run 2 infantry marches, William Wallace primary, Bai Qi secondary is a very solid march, and then you can split into something like a Liu Chair with an Alex. So William Wallace definitely has seen a comeback. He is quite good with Bai Qi, and he is going to be quite meta. Gathering Commanders are a no invest, Charlemagne's a no, YSS is a no, Edward of Woodstock is a no. Chia Jung, he is mid. He's not even the best garrison nowadays because we've got such a dominant cavalry rally meta. So I really would say that if you're maybe a very heavy archer main and you are garrisoning, you can get him and he'd kind of be a niche commander. But for other aspects of the game, he isn't that good. So I'd put him in the mid tier. Tokugawa Ieyasu, not the best on the field because a lot of his kit is locked behind being a garrison, but he's an absolute meta garrison right now. So if you are a garrison player, you pretty much must invest in him, which is why I'll put him in the niche tier. Sid rubbish. Joan is still a great choice nowadays, even though she's probably going to get outshadowed some point within the future because she is an older-ish commander. She's still got quite a bit of life in her, in my opinion, and she is not the worst commander in the game. Gajamata, he's quite mid. I think range commanders have taken a bit of a hit. No insane releases for a little bit now, but he is still definitely usable on the open field because all the range commanders are quite usable. Frederick is a no. Gorgo is probably mid as well. She's a pretty okay garrison, but we haven't really seen... We are seeing an infantry garrison meta, but you would rather get Tokugawa first before you consider getting a Gorgo. Hannibal Barker, no. Mehmed is quite bad. Nowadays, there are much better choices. I mean, Ethelflaed's free, so technically best invest, but she's quite bad generally. Constantine, he's going to go into the mid, can work in a garrison situation, is good in Canyon, can work as a tanky march in some game modes, can work in the earlier seasons, but not the best commander of choosing. More range commanders, I'm going to put pretty much every range commander into mid. Maybe because I don't know fully their potential, but I haven't seen too many craze reports from Stephen and John here. So really, I think that they belong in the mid tier. Nevsky, definitely a great choice or even close to the best invest tier. I think he doesn't cut it just because we have seen a bit of a rise in Hao Bing's strength compared to Nevsky. So that does mean Nevsky might be seeing a bit of a fall off in the near future, which is why I'll put him at the great choice. But if we were doing an open field tier list, he would be at best invest, but we're looking at investment, and maybe within the next year or two, Nevsky might not be as good as Arthur Pendragon and the other pairings you could use with him. So Nevsky, definitely a very good choice still. I just don't think he's going to be the best investment in the game now that we have commanders like Arthur Pendragon who are going to generally perform better on the field in the long term. Zhang Yu's quite a mid investment nowadays. I really wouldn't consider getting him unless you absolutely have to. Honda, very similar situation. Philip II is just better in most ways. CPO, definitely a great choice nowadays. We've seen the new infantry commanders. We're probably going to get something again next year with skill damage at least, which could give CPO a nice little boost, and his debuffs are still really good, and he has an AoE unlike Nevsky, so CPO definitely up there in the great choice, needed for 2 infantry marches generally, or 2 or 3 infantry marches, so he is quite meta. Infantry is so dominant right now that CPO is doing quite good. Bertrand is quite bad for the field. Guan Yu, very mid. I really wouldn't consider getting him unless you have a really specific murder ball, so I wouldn't really do it. Zenobia is a no, she's not even that good in garrison. Nebu is mid, he's got some damage behind him still, but he just isn't that good, and archers are struggling quite a bit. Jadwiga is a no, Janziska is quite bad right now, there are better garrisons out there. Julius Caesar is a no nowadays in my opinion. Flavius is bad, he can maybe do some damage on the field, but I really wouldn't choose him. Xiao Xiao, okay early game for some barbing, okay for the early KVKs, not too good after that. So if you want to get him for commander swap or something, sure, but I would generally recommend skipping him. Gonzalo, I'm going to put him in the niche tier because he is up there with the best ranged march, so he is worthy of the niche tier. One range march is still pretty good, which is why I think it is niche. Ragnar, probably a bad commander, can work with Attila if you double relic, but he's not really worth getting. Ashurbanipal, niche. If you're running a weird archer murder ball, sure, you can use him. Archers are really struggling right now, though, so I think in terms of future investment, he's not going to be too good. Archers will probably get a massive commander power jump this year, at least I hope, so that could knock Ashurbanipal down in terms of the ranking and make him even weaker. So Ashurbanipal, I think niche is the spot to put him. Mulan is bad, there are much better boosting commanders. Boudica Prime, also in the niche tier, going on to the mid tier. She's definitely falling down in strength. We're definitely going to see something to replace her quite soon because she is still within like the top 2 to 3 best archer marchers. So Boudica, not a very good pickup right now. Can still be okay if you're desperate for an archer march, but I really wouldn't do it unless you really have to. Pakal, his anti-swarm is quite outclassed nowadays, so that makes me want to knock him down from mid to bad, just because there are so many just ridiculously powerful commanders compared to Pakal that make him in this situation where he's just going to get demolished. So Pakal, in my opinion, probably a bad pickup nowadays, especially compared to the commanders that are sitting in the mid tier. Chandragupta, similar story. His debuffs are quite outclassed. He's not going to be the best to run on the field, so I wouldn't really consider him. Genghis Khan is a no. Ramses is like the bottom of the bad tier. Subutai, niche. Decent rally for the most part. He's a really good rally with Attila. Now that we've seen the infantry garrison, who's probably going to be quite meta, we're going to see Subutai lose some effectiveness, but he's still going to remain as one of the best rallies out there. Scipio Emilianus, also in the mid tier, decent-ish rally, decent-ish on the open field, quite mid overall though, for a future potential commander. So I think that mid is a fair, justifiable spot to put him. Harold, quite reliant on Pakal or Alex, and Alex just has much better pairings, and Pakal, like I said before, is not too good nowadays. Ishida is gathering, Leonidas is just trash. Artemisia, I want to put her in the bad tier, just because she still does have an AoE for what it's worth, and she did just get a relic. That's what's stopping her from going into the no tier, in my opinion, but she isn't even at the mid tier anymore. Boudica with Artemisia is going to get wrecked, and don't even get me started on a Manatore Artemisia. That march is going to get demolished. So Artemisia's pairings right now, and probably forever, are not very good, and she's probably not going to see a very nice future comeback. Henry, I'm going to put him into the mid tier. He's okay on the field. He's probably like Belisarius Prime level, so he's not too meta. He's not a good rally anymore, but he isn't absolute rubbish, so for what that's worth, he does deserve the mid tier. Zulang, I'm going to put him into great choice. I know he is a 5-target circle AoE commander with pretty good damage, but we don't know what the next archer commanders could be. Will they focus on mighty healing? Will they focus on direct damage? We don't know. So I think that Zulang probably is worthy of the great choice tier. I'm going to put no archer commanders today into the best invest just because it can't really be justified. He's definitely the top of the great choice tier, but until we see the new archer commanders that might be coming to the game, and until we see how they will affect Zulang and whether or not he'll stay as absolute archer meta, we'll kind of decide how good he is. On top of this, he doesn't have the best pairing nowadays, because while Hermann Prime is quite good, he isn't the most overpowered commander, especially comparing him to commanders like Arthur Pendragon or Bai Qi or Ragnar Prime. These commanders are beasts. Hermann is definitely good, but he isn't at that beast level. I'll also just rank Hermann while we're at it. I'll put him into great choice. Hermann is a solid-ish commander on the field still. He's still got an AoE, he's still got a really good debuff, but we are seeing more commanders who are moving away from skill damage. Commanders like Arthur Pendragon, who can be run with combo damage, or commanders like Bai Qi and Liu Che, who are reliant on smite damage. Hermann's debuff might be a little bit less valuable to some murder balls, and he is starting to get a bit power crept by the newer generation commanders, who are tending to be a little bit overpowered compared to Hermann and Zulang. So I think it's justifiable to put them in great choice for now. Cyrus, I'm going to put into the bad tier. Not the most amazing commander anymore. Quite weird to run on the open field, and definitely not fully meta. Tarek, I'll put into the mid tier. Okay for the field if you're in like a really weird situation. Definitely not my go-to commander though. Eleanor, I think it's justifiable to put her somewhere towards like the bad tier. She's not the most amazing garrison nowadays. There are much better garrisons, and she just sucks on the open field. Suleiman, a commander I've never seen used outside of when he was first released. Definitely not a commander I would even consider investing in. Philip II, he's going to go into great choice. I think Philip II's worthy of the great choice tier because he is just a great choice commander. He's quite well-rounded, he's quite OP on the open field, but he just isn't making that best invest cut compared to some of the commanders up there. So great choice, pretty much a solid spot in my opinion to put Philip II. Ditto, definitely a bad commander. Lu Bu, I mean, he's a joke. Ragnar Prime, though, not a joke. Definitely a best invest commander, one of the strongest commanders currently in the game, and possibly has a bit more future potential than that of Scipio because he's newer. Now, we could see it go either way. Scipio could probably be better than Ragnar. Ragnar could probably be better than Scipio, but if I were to hedge my bets, I would say Ragnar has a higher chance of being a bit more future meta just because he's newer and he does have better stats. But there's a chance that Scipio can remain a bit better than Ragnar in the future, depending on the commanders that we do see. Gilgamesh, not a very good commander. Minamoto, probably a niche commander, a mid commander, sorry. You can buy him and use him, but I wouldn't really recommend it. Richard is a no-go nowadays. There are much better commanders. Saladin, definitely a bad commander. Moctezuma. Hao Bing, I'll put him into the best invest. He's definitely quite good right now with Arthur Pendragon. Would I say he's the best invest? No. Him and Nevsky are quite rivaled, but I think that Hao Bing's extra strength with Arthur Pendragon makes him a best invest over Nevsky. That's just my opinion here, and it could definitely go either way, but in my opinion, Hao Bing is the best invest commander. Heraclius, probably a mid-ish garrison nowadays. His future potential as a garrison isn't absurdly high, so I wouldn't really get him unless you have to garrison with him right now. Sargon's definitely a mid commander. I wouldn't consider really getting him unless you have to, similar to that of Tariq. Thutmose, quite a bad commander nowadays, not very good. Justinian, similar situation, he's not the best with Subutai as a rally, and he isn't that good in the open field. Pyrrhus, similar situation. Margaret, definitely a niche commander with Gonzalo, solid in the open field but not absolutely meta. Amana Torre is bad, Sundok is useless. Shajar is a niche commander. If we see a new solid Mighty Heal commander, she can definitely get bumped up to the best invest. But right now, it's a very risky choice, so unless you're running an Archer Murderball, I wouldn't really consider her. Takeda is a no-go nowadays because Attila does just have a better pairing with Subutai. Theodora is a joke. Tomyris is also a joke. Trajan, quite a bad commander choice. You would just rather a Philip II. William is quite mid. There are much better commanders out there. Wizatian, quite a no-go commander. Barber, quite a mid-range commander. There are better range commanders. And finally, YSG, a mid commander nowadays. There are just much better commanders in the game. So this is the full tier list, just fully shown, pretty much in order from the best investments in the game down to some of the worst in the game when we look at commanders like Wu Zetian and Tomyris, who are just completely useless. So generally, as a free-to-play low spender, you want to stick to that best invest and the great choice only. This will be solid for a 3 to 4 March murder ball. Moving on from that, you might have to pick up some of the niche commanders, and when you get to 7 or more marches, you probably have to put in a mid commander or 2. So generally, sticking towards the best invest and the great choice is important, but if you really need to, you can go down a tier or 2 to some of the other commanders available there. So these commanders, great choice and niche, they're pretty decent to pick up, but generally most players want to stick to the best invest and only get great choice kind of as a secondary to some of these commanders. So for example, if you have a Ragnar, you want to get a CPO as a secondary and CPO as a great choice. A lot of the commanders, though, their best pairings are in the top tier. So for example, Hao Bing and Arthur in the top tier, and also Bai Qi and Liu Che are in the top tier. So generally, stick to those top 2 tiers, you're going to be in a good position. These tiers are more for people who are willing to spend money and just to get a gauge on where the commanders currently are in the game. So that is it for today's video. If you found today's video interesting, helpful, or just entertaining, please do consider subscribing to the channel. It's a really small thing that everyone can do, and it does make a really big difference. So if you want to help me out as a creator, just consider subscribing. It's very, very easy, and if you don't like my content, you can always unsubscribe in the future. Other than that, I just want to say thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.